Hi, I'm Marcus Coward, and this is Wake Up New Bedford, and I am here with Kendra Santiago.
Hello.
Kendra, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, for those who know you, but especially for those who don't, can you give us a little bit of background on who you are, starting with where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm from the city of New Bedford, and my parents were originally born in Brava, Cape Verde.
Okay.
So they immigrated here around 25 years old. So I was born here. I attend Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School, and I was my class valedictorian. Thank
Congratulations.
you. And next year I'll be moving on to Harvard University.
Yes, you will. Yes.
Yeah, to study government on a pre-law track. So.
To study government on a pre-law track.
Yep.
Okay. So, before we get into that,
Yep.
I'm interested to know more about where you went to elementary school. Let's start there.
Yeah. So,
Elementary, middle, and high school. Oh, and then, of course, high school, yeah.
So I went to Holy Family, Holy Name for elementary and middle school, which right now it actually merged with St. James, St. John's and formed a new school, St. Teresa. But at the time it was Holy Family, Holy Name. So I went to elementary and middle school there. It was a great school.
Yeah.
A private Catholic school. So yeah, I've learned so much there. The teachers were awesome. The people, it felt like a really close family. So it definitely shaped how I moved on to high school. But yeah, great school.
What was something you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were younger?
So when I was young, I wanted to pursue business, right?
Okay.
Because I was literally so obsessed with business. I literally had my dad create a website for me and create my own company, which was like a wish list, yeah, something you could make a wish list, right? But
okay.
Yeah, I just I was running that as a business. I was very passionate about business.
Okay.
So that probably changed my 8th grade.
Okay.
Or freshman year, in 2020. And I started obviously hearing news about what was going on with George Floyd at the time and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, seeing all these instances of police brutality being shed to light. And obviously my 8th grade self was very as outraged as I could possibly be, right? I'm these people look like me and they're being and it just opened my eyes to everything that was going on, and I'm that's when I knew that's what I wanted to that's what I was passionate about, right? So I became extremely passionate about that, and from there, yeah.
So did you have any sense of awareness of politics before then, of presidential campaigns or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, my dad was somewhat involved in politics, where he would mention at home, but it wasn't as deep. It's not we were having it's not I was being exposed to a lot of politics.
Sure.
So before that, yeah, not at all.
Okay. So when with the business,
yeah.
So you created this wish list. Where did that interest come from?
I mean, my dad's a web developer, so he pushed us into using computers early and even learning how to code and stuff. But I wasn't really interested in the coding aspect. I'm not sure how I just figured out I wanted to run my own business at 9 years old, but I don't know, it just came out of nowhere. But I was I was genuinely so passionate about that.
And were you looking at it as this feels professional and you want to do this, or were you thinking I could make a lot of money doing this?
Maybe a little of both.
Yeah.
I don't think I was as worried about the money part, just because I probably didn't have that big of a sense of money at that age. But I think I was just oh, this feels very professional. It feels very business like. I like how running a business and bossing people around feels. So.
Do you have any siblings?
I do.
Okay.
An older brother though. He's a year and a half older than me, but I boss him around too. So.
Yeah. I'm did you get any experience bossing people around?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He was my vice president of that business.
Really?
So, but he wouldn't do any work.
Sure.
I remember that. But.
And so, did you picture yourself starting this business in New Bedford, or did you have an idea that you wanted to go somewhere else?
It was pretty much online. So it was a website where people could create their own wish list and add items to that wish list directly through Amazon and stuff like that. So it was just purely online. I don't know what goals I had for it. I don't remember if I had any long-term goals for it.
Sure.
But I just remember it was very fun to do at the moment. So.
Okay. And so, have you ever taken any kind of civics course up until this point?
Ooh, I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
And so, when did you start to learn about politics and the government?
Yeah, so being a vocational school, I chose my legal and protective services as my shop.
And you got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
I got
nice,
it.
nice.
So definitely, like, especially sophomore year, it was very law focused. And even like we would do current events every day where we would have to like look up a news article, summarize it, present it, right? To
Okay,
help
I
work
like
on
that.
public speaking and
Sure.
stuff like that. But like, yeah, that definitely taught me a lot more about the government side of things and like the political side of things and the law side of things. So.
And do you just find it passionate, like you can do good with this, or do you find it like truly interesting, or do you find it fun learning about the law?
A little bit of all three.
Yeah, really?
I definitely find it like I can hopefully do something with this. I think the justice system is extremely broken as it stands with all the inequalities in it.
Sure.
So I definitely find it as hopefully eventually I can make change. And obviously I'm passionate about law. Like I find law fun. I find even politics interesting.
Sure.
I find like all of that, like I'm very passionate about it. So there's obviously that aspect too.
And so what do you see yourself studying law? Yeah. What do you plan to do with that?
Criminal law. Hopefully a criminal defense attorney. That's
criminal
my
defense attorney.
preference, yep.
Rather than being a prosecutor.
Yes.
Why is that?
I believe everyone deserves the right to a fair trial.
Okay.
So, and I think I can do more justice work as a criminal defense attorney because I look at the side where there are innocent people still being sent to jail and still being put through unfair trials, especially people of like from low-income communities who can't really afford great legal aid or like don't know their rights when it comes to law. So, yeah.
So is the Constitution something you're familiar with?
Yep.
Okay, because I still, like, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, like, though I think everyone should know more about it, I still know very minimal, okay?
Yeah, as a lot of people.
And so if you were to give, like, a brief summary of why people should know the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, what would you say?
Especially the Bill of Rights. It's so important to know the rights you're automatically granted as a U.S. citizen. It is so important to know those rights.
Yeah.
So that way those rights can't be violated.
Sure.
Right? So that way someone can't break those rights in front of you. So it's very important to know what rights you have as a U.S. citizen.
What would you say is the most important one?
The first one probably freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom. Yeah, like you can't have people telling you what you can and cannot say.
Sure.
Like that genuinely is so important. There are like obviously rights in the courtroom, rights involved in that are very important. So. Yeah.
And so with wanting to be a defense attorney on top of studying law, how do you feel towards law enforcement right now?
Yeah.
Especially with being so young.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously I think that there are good cops. Genuinely, of course. I think that most cops at least have good intentions, right? They're not doing it for bad. I think the entire system is bad where we come from a place, like the United States comes from a place where it was normalized. Racism was normalized, right? And that obviously gets passed down from generation to generation. So the way policing tactics were and the way they are now, like there are still little bits that get passed down from generation to generation. Stereotypes that make it unfair where a police officer will see a black man and automatically think trouble. Right? Just because that information gets passed down. So it's like, I don't think that all cops have bad intentions.
Okay.
I do think obviously there are some cops with bad intentions that are power hungry, that are like ready, but I don't necessarily think negatively of law enforcement as a whole. I do think they serve a very important purpose in keeping crime out, but I do think the way that they're trained, the way that like everything needs to be changed.
Sure.
So.
And you mentioned George Floyd.
Yeah.
Are there any other big events in your life, even maybe before then, that may have convinced you to take this more seriously?
Yeah, I mean, personally, no. right?
Yeah.
Since I've started driving, I haven't even been pulled over by the police.
Sure.
But like even with that, like and me like I have my own project called Knowledge Empowers Justice, which informs people of their rights, like especially involving police interactions, right? And what to do if you're pulled over, right? Because a lot of people don't know that stuff. But even like I know that like the day I get pulled over, like I'm gonna be scared. I'm gonna have that fear in the back of my mind, no matter how properly trained you are, no matter how much you know about how to handle it. Like I know there will obviously still be that underlying fear. Like there will obviously still be that underlying fear. So.
And do you have any SROs at Voc?
Yeah, we do. There's Officer Fisher. So she's pretty amazing.
And she's the only one for Voc?
I believe so, yeah.
Sure. And so how do you feel about SROs in school?
Yeah, again, I think they actually serve a good purpose.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, it can be, like, yeah, but I think we, like, I can't speak for Voc as a whole.
No, just you,
But
personally.
yeah, I think, like, generally students there trust her and trust that in the case of an emergency, there are obviously, like, a lot of school shootings happening, which is another thing that's, like, absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah.
But I think that in the event of an emergency, it makes me feel safe to have her there, right? And to know that she is the only one on campus with a gun, to know that she can protect us in case of an emergency.
Sure.
So.
And do you feel like Voc is Voc receptive to the student voice?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think that, especially Mr. Williams, he is a like wonderful principal. I think he is, especially when I've come to him about like issues and stuff like that. I think he is very receptive. He's very open to conversations from anyone.
Okay.
He's very open to like change. He's very open to he's just very open. Obviously, he has his opinions, but he's very open to hearing what we have to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I did hear that Voc may be implementing uniforms.
I don't believe that's happening.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. I just thought I
think that was a thing like 2 years ago, and like that was like concern, and they like even sent out like a poll to parents, I think, asking if like we should have uniforms, but I don't think that's happening anymore.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so, do you wish that you had gone to another high school, or do you think that Voc gave you like the best possible education?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So coming from my middle school, I obviously had 3 options: staying, continuing my education at a Catholic private school, New Bedford High, or Voc. New Bedford High was actually ruled out for me like almost instantly because I had such negative perceptions of New Bedford High that I'm pretty sure were instilled from being from a Catholic private school.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So like I had negative perceptions where like I thought like students got into fights every day. I thought like I wasn't aware of their like amazing AP and honors program.
Yeah.
Which is like practically separated, right? And I wasn't aware of how much opportunity they had in that. So I like instantly ruled out New Bedford High in my head.
Sure.
Staying, I didn't want to continue my education at another private school.
Okay.
So I just didn't want that for myself. So I thought Voc was the only option, right?
Sure.
So throughout my years, I realized that Voc might have not been the best option academically with because they only offer like a limited amount of AP courses.
Sure.
And they don't really send kids to Ivies, right? They've sent like one, and I'm like the first one to go to Harvard, right? So I definitely felt like some fear in that. I'm like, I'm not gonna get in. Oh my God, like I'm not gonna get into an Ivy. Like they're gonna look and see that I only took like 4 AP classes, and they're not even gonna consider me, right? So I definitely like had negative views in that aspect, and I was wishing I went to New Bedford High.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But after, like, obviously, like, there were no negative, like, regrets in, like, the way, like, the people I made and the experiences and, like, the teachers. Like, there was no, like, I love Voc for that. After I got into Harvard, no more regrets, right?
Sure,
I love that I chose Voc. Like, that was the option for me. Everything works out. But there was a time where I was like, I should have chosen New Bedford High. I should have went to New Bedford High.
Sure.
I thought I wasn't going to get in, so.
Well, I'm glad everything worked out.
It did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, how young were you, or at what age did you realize you wanted to go to an Ivy League? Or was it always Harvard, not even just like any Ivy League? Okay.
No, it was definitely always like an Ivy League.
Yeah.
Like for me, my parents always taught me to like shoot for the stars, like that I could achieve greatness, that I'm very like smart. They always like instilled that in me, right? And that I can be whatever I want to be. So I definitely knew I wanted to go to like a top academic school, and I definitely knew my grades were good enough for that.
Okay.
So when it came to applying for colleges, even though I had my doubts, like coming from a vocational school, my dad still encouraged me to like apply to Ivies and still like apply to top schools, and that's my luck.
And so did you always like have good grades even like from elementary and middle school?
Yeah, like elementary and middle school, I would literally get like 99s, 100s, and like
Wow.
classes. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
was it just a lot of studying that you put in? Did it come kind of natural?
Yeah, so I think it definitely came like a lot more naturally for me than other people. I
Sure.
think like I pick up information a lot easier. There's definitely like a lot of studying that
course.
is put in, and
Yeah.
a lot of like hard work that is put in, but I do think it definitely comes a little more naturally to me than other people necessarily.
That's great. Yeah.
It is.
And so what was your favorite subject before you got to Voc?
Ooh, I think it always stayed the same. I think like actually middle school it was definitely more English. Like
Okay.
I love like the grammar side of things. I was like great
Really?
at like vocab stuff like that.
Sure.
I think when we got into high school and we like English became more like poetry and like stuff like that. Obviously, still stayed like the writing aspect, which I love,
Yeah.
like the reading aspect. But like I don't like the poetry aspects as
Really?
much. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think like actually I started liking history more.
Sure.
So, but it always like stayed around like those two. So.
And so you were always good at math, but that wasn't really what you were interested in.
Yeah, I was decent at math, but I didn't really like doing math.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
science, I was decent at science, but I didn't like science.
Sure.
So.
And what was your favorite part of history? Like, I guess, like time period, I mean.
So definitely United States history, and like definitely back to like African American history
Sure.
and like slavery. I find that very interesting to learn about. Obviously, it was like a tragic like point in United States history,
Yeah.
but I find it so interesting to learn about and so interesting to connect how that affects even modern day events. Like I find that connection so interesting because it still does. So.
Do you feel like Cape Verdean history and then African American history in America are two separate things?
Yeah, so Cape Verde obviously it is an island that originated like from slavery, right? So Portuguese colonizers, even Spanish colonizers brought African slaves from different countries into like an uninhabited island. So there's no natural Cape Verdeans that were like born there.
Sure.
Like everyone was brought from different African nations, and Portuguese colonizers came to that island.
Okay.
So slavery is slavery, right? Obviously, there were the like United States slavery might be different from how like Cape Verdean slaves were treated. Like there's obviously differences when it comes to that, but in the end, slavery is slavery, and that definitely shapes like a lot of things. That's why like a lot of Cape Verdeans are like mulatas, which is like a mix between like white and black. So like we are all like mixed, right? So, but yeah, there's definitely like comparisons. There's definitely like differences, but slavery in the end is slavery. So.
And so I'm glad you know that history too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are either Cape Verdean or Portuguese who may try and, I don't know, separate themselves from slavery, but it did affect so many of us in ways that if we don't know the history, then we might not even know.
Yeah, it's very important to know.
And then so when and where did you learn that?
Cape Verdean history, I took it upon myself. Obviously, my family taught me some,
sure.
but African American history, like freshman year, I had a great teacher, Miss Pimentel, who was very insistent on teaching me that.
Okay.
She was she was such a great teacher, but she definitely instilled that in my mind and helped me grow my passion for that.
Sure.
But.
And so do you have, I mean, so besides your parents, I'm assuming you're going to look up to them, but like throughout history or even just in your own life, are there any heroes or people who inspired you to take this path into law? Yeah,
I mean, beyond my parents, right? My parents were definitely like my biggest inspiration when it comes to that. And my brothers too.
Okay.
I've always looked up to my brother as like a role model, especially him being older and him also being so like smart and so
really
like me. But like in terms of law, like I had a legal teacher in school, Miss Martin, and she was like, she used to be a lawyer, so she taught me like a lot about law and a lot about just like helped me open my mind to different things and open my mind to different perspectives. So she was definitely an inspiration when it came to that.
Sure.
In terms of law. So.
What is the most challenging thing with studying law for you?
Yeah, I think definitely law is a lot about morality, unfortunately. And it is a lot about what different people think. Like, as like for an example, when it comes to like abortion law.
Okay,
right?
sure.
A lot of people think abortion is murder and that like they're pro-life always. A lot of people think that women deserve the right to choose what they want to do with their own bodies, right? So a lot of law ends up being morality, and I think that is very challenging because of the fact that we are all human, we all think differently, and we all have different morals that may be based on how we grew up, religion, stuff like that, right? So I think that is the most challenging part of law, is finding a fine line that everyone can agree with, but not everyone will always be able to agree with.
That's so interesting because we do all live in one country. And so with being in one country, you have to come to some kind of consensus as to what that means. But not everyone's always going to agree.
Which is why they leave a lot of things up to states even. But even then, not everyone in the state will agree. So yeah, it's difficult.
That is really difficult, yeah. But that doesn't deter you from wanting to study? Yeah.
Not at all. I find that obviously everything will be challenging, right? But it's something that has to be done regardless, right? Finding that fine line. And maybe not always agreeing with that line and not always agreeing with the law, but it's something that has to be done, and I'm still very passionate about it.
So with talking about morality specifically, I guess that's extreme, but with being a lawyer, do you feel like you have to choose a certain political party, or do you try and stay in the middle? How do you navigate that?
I choose a certain political party that aligns with my views. I think that not all lawyers have to.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I think, again, that doesn't really necessarily like apply to the profession, more like your own beliefs and your own moralities. And if you find a political party that aligns with majority of your views, you're naturally going to support that political party no matter what you do, no matter if you study law, no matter what.
Sure.
Versus if you're like in between, if you're not sure what you like really think, if you think like some aspects of both sides, like you're going to be more in the middle.
Sure.
Naturally, so.
Okay. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And so with being a defense attorney though, would you have trouble defending someone who you thought was guilty?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, there is like a lot of morality involved in that too, right?
Of course,
to have to like go and defend like someone that is very obviously might be obviously guilty of like murder or like rape, right? Obviously, that is very difficult. I believe that regardless, everyone has the right to a fair trial. Obviously, if I have my own private practice, I'm going to try to avoid cases like that.
Sure.
Obviously, but I do still believe that everyone has a right to a fair trial, regardless of what you did. And I think that it is up to the people, the jury, the judge, to decide your sentence, right? It's not up to me, right? I'm going to defend your right to a fair trial. I'm not defending your alleged actions. I'm just defending your right to a fair trial.
Sure.
So I think that it is very important for defense attorneys to look at it like that.
And that's hard.
Yeah, definitely
but that is very respectable because it is up to the prosecutor and the jury to do their job and to prove guilty.
And if they can't do that, then maybe this person isn't guilty, right? You never know. So.
And we really just need more like great defense attorneys because so many people do get convicted of crimes that they didn't do.
They didn't commit, Especially back then it happened even more, right?
Yeah.
So I read a book about, it's called Just Mercy, but it's about like an attorney that had to defend like a black man that was sentenced on death row for a crime he did not commit, right? And it's a true story. It was based on a true story. Attorney Brian Stevenson.
Okay.
It's based on a true story. So, yeah, that definitely helped also push my passion. But.
And so, with wrapping up this episode, we have a few minutes left, okay? And if the sentence is too long, then we can continue this. But In what ways would you want to improve the justice system? Have you thought about
Yeah,
that?
so I think that there is a lot of obviously inequalities as it stands, especially with minorities, people from low income backgrounds, right? Who are not receiving like a fair trial and aren't receiving adequate legal help and don't know their rights and don't know what to do if like a police interrogates you and don't know like your rights when it comes to that, right? I think that education in that aspect is very important and is the first step to reform, right? Making sure that the people know their rights, making sure that the people know what to do, making sure that the people know just how to, just like their rights when it comes to law, right?
Sure.
So I think that is very important. I think obviously there's work that has to be done beyond that with with the system in general, right?
Yeah.
With the jury, the judges, the courts, everything. So have I really like thought deeply about that yet? Not really. Obviously, I hope school will.
No, but that's a great way to start as far as just informing people on the rights. Because, like I said, like I'm 26, and sure, I'm interested in politics, but I couldn't name you the 10 Bill of Rights right now, okay? Or like maybe even 4. So, but like you said, that's very common. Like especially with adults, I feel like that education wasn't taught the best that it could be.
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, like maybe like history classes touch briefly on the Bill of Rights and make you like memorize them for a test, but like that's it. It's really not taught.
But we do. So. But that's the foundation that we need in order to even care about how the justice system is in a lot of ways built against us. You know,
it
is to know how we can defend ourselves and know what rights we do have. And so, with Harvard, do you see that that is going to actually challenge you, or do you see that that's just the next natural step and you feel pretty prepared for it right now?
I think it's definitely going to challenge me.
Yeah.
I think coming from a vocational school where maybe I'm not I didn't receive like as great of an education as people may think, right? So I think that it definitely will challenge me, especially it being a top school like that, right? It'll challenge anybody who goes, frankly.
Sure.
So I think that I'm ready for that challenge. I'm ready to take on that challenge, but it definitely will be challenging. So, and I recognize that, but.
And are you scared of not knowing anyone when you go there, or do you think you'll be ready for that environment?
I mean, I went for like admitted students day, and like the people, like the freshmen coming in, obviously also didn't know anyone, right? So like it's very a friendly environment.
Okay, great.
Like, people are very friendly. Like, I don't think making friends will necessarily be an issue.
Sure.
Right? So I think that just about meeting people, meeting as many people as you can, building connections. I think that's very important. But I'm excited to be able to talk to different people, be able to learn different people's perspectives, how they think, like, and make new friends. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. And so we're going to talk more about Harvard, more about your thoughts on law, and I have a couple other questions for you that we'll get into for part 2. Okay. So thank you everyone for watching part 1. This has been our conversation with Kendra Santiago, and catch us in part 2 where we continue this conversation. Thanks so much for watching. Catch us in part 2. Peace.